Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northfield. My name is Cot LaFond, and I've been a member of the UFN since last February. Whether you came here for the 1000th time or this is your first time here, whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your accent, whoever you love, whatever religious beliefs you hold, we are glad you are here. You are welcome in this sacred space. Leave nothing behind. Bring your love and your heartbreak, your fear and your defiance, your grieving and your dreaming. Come with your entire self. For today is a day for community. Today is a day we remind each other we are not alone. Later in the service, we will take our Share the Plate offering as a way to care for the wider world. This month's recipient is the Community Action Center, or CAC, which supports Rice County families through a variety of resources, including food, housing, recovery support for substance use disorders, and seasonal initiatives like Operation Joy. They have asked for our support in November as the holidays approach. This is the time for us to double down on caring for our neighbors. During the offering later, you may donate online from our website, uunorthfield.org, or put cash or a check in the basket. There will also be instructions on the screen during the offertory time. I also call your attention to the announcements in your order of service and weekly email. Our children's choir meets next Saturday, November 23rd from 10 to 11 a.m. Directed by Taylor Wessel, this little ensemble will explore the voice, sing silly songs, make some friends, and build confidence in making music. Open to all children ages 5 to 14. Barbara Kraus also has a special announcement today.
Share it with you. Good morning, everyone. All this month, we've been exploring how we repair and strengthen our connections with the wider world, with our community, and personally, to live in greater harmony. Repair lets us see the value in doing things differently, like finally completing the Advanced Care Directive that's been cluttering your desk for the last year or two. Guess what? Tomorrow, right here at UUFN from 1:30 to 3, a free advanced care planning workshop is at your doorstep. Materials, trained facilitators, and a notary are ready to assist you. Now's the time for action. Start, review, or complete your advanced care directive. Everyone ages 18 to 110 can benefit. Let your family and medical staff know your wishes. Then make sure that this legal document is distributed to those who count most. Tomorrow, Monday, right here at UUFN from 1:30 to 3, no formal program, just drop in. Determine what you want for healthcare and document it for peace of mind. Leave feeling free and empowered. I'll look for you. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Morning, all. I am the Reverend Sara, she, her pronouns, and I am honored to serve this congregation as its minister. We begin our service with these words from Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still, bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still, steady hunger for more, the vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun across the prairie, the light that spreads across the face of one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know and still loving life, loving us, just as we are, just as it is. For this hour, we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse, to give up, and to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let us worship together.
The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Each Sunday when we gather, we bring this symbol of life together. Please join me in speaking the words for the lighting of the chalice. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. Let us open our minds to love one another. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 318, We Would Be One.
You may be seated. Our story today is The Beautiful Tiger, partially told by Christopher Bryce and partially rewritten by me. There once was a beautiful and powerful tiger. But one day, she was captured by a mean and cruel man who put her into a cage surrounded by iron bars. The man kept the cage near the jungle, not far from his house. Every day, he would walk down the dirt path from his home and bring out a bowl of water and some food for the lonely tiger. Sometimes the tiger would see her own reflection in the bowl of water and she would say, "My, I must be a beautiful tiger." When the man heard her say this, he would lie to her and tell her, "No, you are not a beautiful tiger. You are ugly. You are a pitiful creature." Sadly, the tiger started to believe the man. Some days after she ate her food, she would pace back and forth in her cage, eyeing the dirt path just outside her confines, and feel energy and power moving through her body. And she would say, "My, I must be a powerful tiger." When the man heard her say this, he would lie and tell her, "No, you are weak and puny. You are a pitiful creature." Sadly, the tiger started to believe him. Then one day, when the man was nowhere around, a lion happened to walk by the cage. The lion saw the tiger inside and spoke to her. "Beautiful and powerful tiger, what are you doing lying about in that cage?" "Do not make fun of me," replied the tiger. "I know I am not neither beautiful nor powerful." "I'm not making fun of you," said the lion. "You are surely the most beautiful and powerful tiger I have ever seen. I am only surprised to see you lying here when you are clearly strong enough to break out of that cage." "You really think I could break out of here?" said the tiger. "Quite easily, I should think," replied the lion. The tiger was not sure at first. She had been told so many times she was a weak and pitiful creature. Why even try? But suddenly, when looking in the eyes of the lion, it seemed that she could feel energy and strength moving through her body. She began to pace back and forth in her cage, and then almost without thought, she leapt against the cage door and then crashed back onto the floor of the cage. The door was solid and unmoving. "Why did you give me hope I would be able to break free?" asked the tiger. "I am stupid to have believed you." The lion replied, "Don't give up. There must be a way. I will stay with you until you figure it out. Do not believe the lie you tell yourself that you're stupid as well." True to her word, the lion sat down on the dirt path. The tiger threw her body against the door and rattled its bars again and again, but it would not budge. Bruised and sad, she went to sit in the shade along the back of the cage where the forest grew. She looked up at the brilliant green leaves. Oh, how her heart longed to be among them again. Her eyes snapped back down to the bars that imprisoned her. And that's when she saw it. The beautiful, powerful, and smart tiger. Notice that the bars in the back corner of the cage, underneath where the leaves were still dripping from the morning's rain, were disintegrating from rust. She turned her head to the lion and smiled, and then looked back at the rusted bars. The lion walked around to the side of the cage so she could see what the tiger was looking at and did a little happy lion dance. The tiger got up, walked to the corner of the cage, and pushed against two of those rusted bars. They gave way, and she carefully stepped out of her cage. Once outside, she seemed dazed. "I could have broken those bars down long ago," she said. "I spent so much of my life stuck in there. I never even tried to be free." The lion looked at her with soft brown eyes and said, Sometimes it is the lies we believe that we are incapable that prevent us from seeing different possibilities. But you didn't give up, and you found a new way through, knowing you are beautiful, powerful, and smart. And together, they walked into the brilliant green jungle, wild and free. This ends our story today. We now turn our attention, oh, you beautiful, strong, and smart people. We now turn our attention to our candles of community. Each week when we gather, we share joys and sorrows as a core communal spiritual practice. There is space here for our love and our heartbreak, our fear and our defiance, our grieving and our dreaming. Will you take a breath with me as we arrive more fully in this moment together? Transgender Day of Remembrance is on Wednesday this week. Transgender Day of Remembrance is an international annual observance on November 20th that honors the memory of the transgender and gender nonconforming people whose lives were taken by anti-transgender violence. And so we light our first candle in honor of all of the transgender people whose lives have been taken in the last year, named and unnamed, known and unknown. And today we light 2 candles for 2 beloved transgender women killed here in Minnesota in the last year. A candle for Savannah Williams. Savannah Williams, an Indigenous Latina trans woman who was killed in St. Paul. She was 38 years old. And a candle for Liara Kaylee Tsai, a trans woman who was killed in Minneapolis. She was 35 years old. With their names and their lives echoing in this space, we pray these words by Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. For Transgender Day of Remembrance, we remember those who have been murdered for being who they are, those who face violence on a daily basis, those who have lost loved ones, and those who worry for loved ones. May we come to a time when we cease to shame children around gender roles and expression, where we allow for freedom and exploration of identity and oppression, and to a world that operates from love, especially when things are confusing and difficult. May all of us who live with the threat of violence find support, strength, community, hope, and safety from violence. May it be so, and may we make it so. We know, too, that the details of our daily lives are sacred and important, and we light candles to honor the sorrows and celebrations in our gathered community. Candle in honor of the joys and sorrows we carry in our hearts, but that are not spoken out loud. And we move into a time of shared sacred silence, that we may hear what love is speaking. Amen and blessed be.
Our first reading is The Possibility in Impossibility by Nikita Gill from her book Wild Embers, Poems of Rebellion, Fire and Beauty. Yesterday, you spoke to me about impossibilities and how certain relationships, lives, and moments were not destined to be. For you, I collected these in hope that if you do not trust me, at least you will believe these facts from the galaxies. On Venus, and yes, I know you will find this bizarre, it snows in metal and rains in sulfuric acid, and a teaspoon of a dancing neutron star weighs more than everyone together in the world. What I am trying to say, my darling, is that I know you said you wouldn't survive this day, but across our beautiful universe, what is impossible is happening every day. And this from Molly House Gordon. World ending is what empire does, because ending is the point, ending what is wild and free and unpredictable and full of promise. Endings are contained and whole, complete and controlled, the deepest desire of empire. World continuing is what we who resist do. We continue to grow and nourish and hope. We continue to love and grieve and dance. We continue to struggle, and there will never be an end to it because ending is the work of empire. We continue. We will now expand our circle of care as we gratefully give and receive our Share the Plate offering for the Community Action Center. This is a tangible way we show care for our neighbors. Will the ushers please come forward?
After much grappling with the state of the world this week and analyzing the words of activists, pundits, and theologians, Here is my working thesis statement for what comes next. 2025 will be the year of the return of the Jedi. It just makes sense. The first Death Star was destroyed. The Empire always fights back because the Death Star was only a symptom, not the cause. And now they're building another bigger and more effective Death Star. And it is time for the Rebel Alliance to unite and fight. And for those, who do not have the equivalent life experience of pretending to have lightsaber battles on the rocky shoreline of Lake Superior in 1982 like I did, a reminder of important plot points. Stick with me and see if you see all of these parallels here. Star Wars: A New Hope was released in 1977. This was the earliest of the Star Wars movies, though it was technically number 4 in a series of 9. We always join a story that's already in progress. In it, a scrappy band of rebels discovers that the Empire has built a Death Star, a gigantic space station armed with planet-destroying super lasers. This band of rebels must destroy the Death Star before it destroys worlds. And, spoiler alert, they do. Woo! Near the end of the movie, the scrappy team of rebels led by Luke Skywalker destroys the Death Star. Luke uses the Force, his own true knowing, connected to all true knowing, to guide his movements, forsaking technology and the voices yelling at him, and successfully deals a death blow to the Death Star. The Death Star is destroyed and the Empire is defeated, and there is much rejoicing. In the next episode, the Empire strikes back, and we learn some hard truths. The hero and the villain, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, share the same DNA. There is something in both of their bloodlines that is both Death Star and wild and free. And then comes Return of the Jedi. The Empire is building another Death Star, this one bigger, more powerful, more deadly than the last. Fear grips the galaxy. What could destroy such a massive ender of worlds? The answer, of course, is the Rebel Alliance, a diverse resistance movement that never backed down despite overwhelming odds. They restore democracy to the galaxy. And in case it's not obvious, let me draw the parallels explicitly. And maybe add some nuance. The first episode, with the first Death Star, bent on destroying worlds, was the first Trump presidency, though the story of white supremacy and greed had been in process a very long time before that election. The second episode was the past 4 years, when we could not ignore some hard truths during the pandemic about how we really are one global family, but do not always act like it. There was a new administration in charge, but the Empire still had much power. And 2025 is the return of the Jedi. They are building a bigger and more powerful Death Star. We are building a bigger and more powerful Rebel Alliance. I am using us and them language here, but I want to be very clear that when using this metaphor, I do not mean we should think of other human beings as the enemy, to be demonized and condemned. And I do not mean they are a part of white supremacy and patriarchy, and we don't also have those lessons embedded in us. Us and them are helpful terms, though, when they help clarify who we are working with and who we are working against. In the words of the poet, it starts with we, and you know who you mean, and each day you mean one more. It matters that we find our people and that each day we mean one more. But there is no us and them in the interdependent web of all existence. There is a difference between an opponent and an enemy, says Dr. Shante Holly. An opponent wants you to lose, but an enemy wants you to suffer. I want all that is opposed to justice and liberation to lose, but our enemy is the Death Star of oppression. It wants us to suffer because then we are easier to control. Our enemy is the systems and structures that empire has built, not only around us, but within us. Sometimes we believe the lies we are told when they're all we know. This real world Death Star is built with the overlapping oppressions of patriarchy, white supremacy, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, and extractive capitalism that exploits workers and the earth, and that results in extreme wealth disparities and destruction of the planets. This Death Star has pointed its laser beam at us for so long that, as Frederick Jameson says, it's easier for us to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. But the real world rebel alliance we're building is not a scrappy group of ragamuffins in over their heads. Within and beyond Unitarian Universalism, we are building a powerful coalition of allies, imperfect but growing every day. We are artists and scientists, IT professionals and gig economy workers, CEOs and union members, retirees and college students. In our coalition, there are atheists, humanists, Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, mystics, pagans, and more. We are policy wonks with political science degrees and crystal-toting dreamers with imagination. We are not wielders of endings, but creators of justice. We are builders of a new way. We continue. I feel so much more powerful and determined channeling this collective energy. When I am alone, I am afraid, despondent, defeated, and deflated. But when I give up any false hope I can go it alone, I feel my courage rising and new possibilities shimmering. If you're not there yet to these new shimmering possibilities, that's okay too. If in the aftermath of the election, when we are already seeing how dangerous the Trump administration will be to immigrants, transgender people, and more, if you're still feeling overwhelmed by grief, disbelief, or fear, take your time. It's okay. Your feelings are valid. If you have no capacity to do anything right now but survive, survival is your most important and only task. If you're not ready for hope yet, that's okay. Others here will hold hope for you until you're ready to pick it up yourself. As Reverend Karen G. Johnston says, I will try to be brave. And if you are not feeling brave, you can have some of mine. And if I am not feeling brave, I will borrow some of yours. We will add our brave together, add it all up, so that our brave together light will outshine the shadow. Ethicist and scholar Sharon Welch calls this brave together light generative interdependence. generative interdependence. In her words, this happens when a community that fully values diversity and connection. That is what is generative. A community that nurtures creativity and scientific rigor, and that embodies responsibility for others and the freedom to find new and better ways of living out and creating expansive human communities of connection, respect, and cooperation. That is interdependence. Reverend Gretchen Haley summarizes generative interdependence this way. It is the creative, dynamic energy born of all of us being in this together. The creative, dynamic energy born of all of us being in this together. There is something almost magical that happens in communities of generative interdependence. I think it is part of the magic of UUFN. Sharon Welch is the author of The Feminist Ethic of Risk. She was the provost of Meadville Lombard Theological School, the Unitarian Universalist seminary I attended in Chicago, and was one of my professors there. She continues to be a formative force in my ministry. Before I explain what she means by the feminist ethic of risk, I want to explain what she argues is the opposite, the ethic of control. An ethic of control means this: we take action in order to gain certain results. It is the results we focus on, and so our actions are guided by a desire to control. This means we don't act unless we feel assured we know what the outcome will be. An ethic of control saves us from ambiguity. It is easier to imagine the end of the world than the healing of the climate crisis, and so why even try? If we have to know we will win before we start, why even start? Despair makes more sense than hope. The Death Star is just too big. Welch describes a main problem with this ethic of control is that it results in a middle-class failure of nerve, the inability to persist in resistance when the problems are seen in their full magnitude. Reverend Emily DeBart explains it this way. Welch is lamenting middle-class failure of nerve, a trend she sees in people of a particular privilege who at first fight for justice for all people, but when faced with the magnitude of injustice and the overwhelming nature of oppression, begin to despair and give up their activism. As a white woman, she reflects that for marginalized communities, they cannot afford the luxury of despair because they are always fighting for their own rights and freedoms, whether or not they believe they will actually be able to achieve them. An ethic of control asks, is the outcome sure enough that I am willing to work for it? An ethic of risk, on the other hand, asks, what improbable task with which unpredictable results will we undertake today? What improbable task with which unpredictable results will we undertake today? An ethic of risk calls us to take responsible action even if we're not feeling very hopeful. The point is the action, not the hope. Responsible action does not mean the certain achievement of desired ends, says Welch, but the creation of a matrix in which further actions are possible. We continue. An ethic of risk is a commitment to action over analysis, generative interdependence over rugged individualism, a never-ending process of possibilities rather than a focus on guaranteed results. An ethic of control asks, what is the desired outcome and is it achievable? If the desired outcome is a complete end to the climate crisis, we get stuck. If we have no idea if it's achievable, we don't take action. And this, Welch says, is a failure of nerve because we value control more than justice. An ethic of risk also asks, where is love calling me next? Not what does authority want me to do, not what is fear telling me is true, but where is love calling me next? And then actually heeding the answer. There are no sure outcomes when we let capital L love lead us. It's scary. Capital L love gently but insistently invites us to let go of perfectionism and ego. It challenges us to prioritize truth over politeness, compassion over indifference, and justice over comfort. We give up control, but we gain connection. We continue to struggle, and there will never be an end to it, but we continue. It may be clear by now that an ethic of risk takes a kind of moral courage, an ethic of control does not. An ethic of risk demands a deep commitment to ethical action, even when it is difficult. I want to right-size what I mean by risk here and explain a little more as well. This is not the kind of risk that is about being reckless or impulsive or haphazardly choosing ineffectual actions. Quite the opposite. It's about the kind of strategizing and organizing that creates a matrix in which further actions are possible. We will not obey in advance. It's about taking responsible actions that might be uncomfortable even if you don't know if they're going to work. For some of us, it might be uncomfortable just calling our senator and letting them know what we think about Trump's nominations for cabinet positions. That might not work. It might be awkward. By trying, we put ourselves out there to be disappointed. An ethic of risk tells us to do it anyway. We can practice an ethic of risk in other ways as well. Reaching out to someone for a hard conversation, even if we don't know what the response will be. Taking the first shaky baby step towards healing, even if full healing feels like a distant impossibility. Risking giving ourselves over to joy. And when we gather in communities of generative interdependence, and each day we mean one more, when our brave together light keeps getting brighter and brighter, this ethic of risk calls us collectively to care and to act, although there are no guarantees of success. What improbable task with which unpredictable results will we undertake today? Will we undertake today? Sharon Welch asks. We don't know how things will play out when Trump officially takes office. We know it will be bad for many, maybe bad for everyone except the most wealthy. We know it will be especially bad for the most marginalized. An ethic of risk tells us to simply do the right thing over and over again, the next right thing, and then the next. We will honor our grief and we will cultivate our joy. We will let trauma move through us instead of living within us. We will provide sanctuary to weary souls and threatened bodies. We will not obey in advance. What improbable task will we undertake? Asks Sharon Welch. And then she quotes Tony Cade Bambara, urging that our answer be fueled by sheer holy boldness. We will do improbable tasks with sheer holy boldness. Because let's not forget, Return of the Jedi is also the episode where Princess Leia overpowers Jabba the Hutt, the slug who imprisoned and objectified her. She broke free of those patriarchal chains. A woman's place is in the resistance. Rise up, women and femmes. We got monsters to slay. Rise up, Rebel Alliance, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. We have the Death Star of oppression to defeat, and love's unstoppable force is with us. So may it be, and let us all rise in body or spirit and join in singing, "We are building a new way." May be seated. Please take a moment now to pause and notice how you are feeling in this moment. Know you are an integral part of the generative interdependence here, the light of community that grows brighter and brighter each time we gather, when we end our isolation and join in community. From Emily Richards. Our service here this morning is coming to an end, and our work is just beginning. The work of holding one another and this community in love, the work of trusting that we are on the right path, the work of believing that what connects us is stronger than what separates us, the work of engaging in that which makes us whole, the work of deeper understanding and commitment, the work of letting go of that which does not serve us, the work of radical inclusion, the work of collective liberation, the work of this beloved community. Go forth and do improbable tasks with sheer holy boldness. We join together in the words for extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now please rise in body or spirit, and with your hand over your heart, or holding a hand of those next to you, or whatever posture is most comfortable, we sing words of blessing one to another. Go in peace, Rebel Alliance.
All right, I love you. Officially.
Oh, perfect.
You were great. And it was right on.
I was like, I'm taking a second risk here.
You did so well. Thank you.
Including me.
Thank
Like,
you.
I need to
I'm in a lot of internal dialogue.